And welcome back to Sp.Channel. This morning we have with us Brother Stranger Than Fiction. We're going to discuss time, gravity, CERN, the multiverse, question and answers, anything you want to talk about. This morning we're going to get to know you guys. If you want to talk to us, here we are. Tate, we were going to discuss some scientific theories. Stranger Than Fiction. I mean, brother, rather.
Either would have worked, man. They know me as either or.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Um, so we were discussing, I think we had some earlier conversation earlier tonight, and we were discussing the possibility of extraterrestrial life, and we never explored that in depth. Um, what are your thoughts on the universe itself and the possibility that there is life outside of, you know, just what we can observe outside of Earth, for that matter?
I think honestly, one would be a fool not to believe that there is at least a strand of bacteria on a far, far away moon somewhere.
It's interesting that you bring that up. It seems like it was just on what was it the was it a dwarf moon Ceres, or was it an asteroid? No, it was some sort of a dwarf planet Ceres that they had just discovered biological bacteria on the surface of it. Do
Oh,
you
yeah.
remember? Yeah, and you would think that this would constitute, like, oh well, they finally got confirmation that there's life outside Earth. Not all biological chemical reactions equate to life. So it's not in every definition that biological necessarily means living or alive.
hmm well, what I'm saying is like a carbon-based structure that life forms could come from or about from eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as we know it, I mean, honestly, if you go straight to the other side of the board from where carbon is, you could have I think it's silicone. You could have a silicone based life form also.
Oh, I've heard a lot of talk about silicone-based life forms. That's entirely possible. That's it. Do you have any thoughts about silicone-based life forms? What would a silicone life form be like?
Honestly, I don't think they would be any different from us.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, look, life follows a complicated set of algorithms
Yeah.
that I can determine. And the algorithms that I've determined for an apex predator would be that it adapts to its environment. The best adapted predator known on Earth, on Terra, is human beings. I don't say this because of our physical prowess. I don't say this because of our mental prowess. I say this because of a mixture of the things.
Hmm.
So I say they would be similar to us, not carbon copies, mind you, but similar to us in the way that they go about things and the way they move.
So you would almost assume that there would even be like hominids walked on, two legs and everything.
If history shows us hominids 7 billion, um, pretty much outweigh any other animal species out there except for insects.
Hmm. I mean, I get where you're coming from. It's just that I consider how complicated the genetic structure of things like mushrooms and bananas are. And it really makes a person think from a genetic point of view that, life can be so intricate and complicated. Why couldn't life be highly intelligent and highly advanced, and yet from the outside be nothing more than a pile of moss?
If the mouse was bipedal or couldn't move outside of its biome, I would say yes, that's a possibility. But since moss and fungi normally cannot leave their biome because they are rooted to whatever biome or habitat they're in,
Right. I mean, I see what you're saying. It's like, how advanced is it really if it can't get up and move away from danger? I see what you're saying. That's a state of evolution, but that's how we humans perceptibly evolved to adapt with our surroundings. Let's consider, if you would, a body in outer space, a mass, that there were no natural predators for this type of bacteria or fungus or even virus. Why couldn't something like a virus become so advanced without any predators that it could become an advanced life form?
Well, the study lies in what I call the immortal jellyfish, or that may even be the actual technical name. The immortal jellyfish, if damaged, can reprogress itself back to a state of what you would call larva or a fetal stage, and then regrow again effectively, living forever. But it
Right.
has no natural predators. So it never had to evolve anything beyond just more than four freaking nervous system or cells.
That brings me into topic and reminds me of the. Do you remember the fox gene?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the human longevity gene. And what's so great about the human longevity gene or the fox gene it is actually a fork head gene. And what a fork head gene is that means that it's got these little nearly like pincers or angled bits of protein at the tip that allows it to hook itself into a chromosome and rewrite DNA. So it's particularly useful for things like genetic therapy or genetic splicing.
But tell them why they use the gene.
The Fox gene is very important because it has been identified as the human longevity gene. This is the gene that seems to be unique and specific within all human beings that determines when our bodies decide to break down and we begin to succumb to age and pass. Um, you will often hear it said that, this person lived to an older age. It was just in their genetics, it was in their genes to live longer. Well, to a certain extent, that's true. And we've discovered the longevity gene. It's called the Fox gene. And with it, it was discovered, I believe, was it in Peru or Singapore, Tate? It was those islands off of
It was a set of islands, and the islands had the perfect conditions for these people to live long, prosperous lives.
these people lived on this isolated islands and lived these healthy lives eating the vegetation there where they weren't exposed to disease and and spreads of cancers like normal societies everywhere else. They were just this isolated culture. So normally in their society they would live these fantastically long lives because they weren't prone to disease, and they would live normally 140 to 150 years on this island, and nobody ever really understood why.
No natural predation.
So they've studied this gene and they've identified the gene as the Fox gene. Now, through modern scientific miracles and modern medical miracles like genetic splicing and genetic therapy, humans can have this gene spliced into them. You have to understand about gene splicing, though. Gene splicing is never as gene therapy is never as effective as gene splicing. For instance, if you're a person that wasn't born with the Fox gene naturally to extend your life, of course everyone has their own version of this Fox gene. But if you don't have this modified Fox gene to live longer in your base, genome,
Hmm.
and you get this introduced to you through genetic therapy, it will affect you mildly, but it will not increase your lifespan to 150. The only way to guarantee that this person would live to be about 150 years old is if they had it spliced and engineered really into their genome before birth.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is the reason that those people on that island with favorable conditions have that gene and don't tend to have families. Well, you read that one study, the guys were like 75 to 90 and still getting erections.
Well, you know, they've had this healthy lifestyle where they weren't introduced to things that commonly pass through the public. Consider the diseases that were passed through the public, the plagues. Consider
Hmm.
the different types of preservatives and different types of unhealthy things that just have really generally led to health problems in others. This island where they just lived off the vegetation and lived these simple lives, and they weren't introduced to all of these things, that they naturally just had a healthier, longer lifespan because of
But
that.
what I'm saying though is where they have a longer amount of time due to favorable conditions to actually make copies of their genetic code and create predecessors,
Oh yeah, I
create progeny.
completely. I agree completely.
And I think that's why that gene is in that area. Honestly, I think that's why that set of people has that set of genetics. If you look at, say, the modern day Englishman, he lives until about 60 to 80 right now, has a family, I'd say before 30, right?
Yeah, of course.
Now, well, if they live to 80, why doesn't he have a family at 40? That would seem like half the cycle should be maturity.
Well, because if we had children much earlier than that, if you wait till your life is half over to have children, that's the more vulnerable twilight section of your years. You got to realize that 20 years between 30 and 50, you know, you're looking at the difference between you're young and you're able to raise kids and give them a great life, or you're old and you're sick and they're taking care of you.
Yeah, you see, you just answered my question. We're old and we're sick by 60 to 80, so before 30, we tend to have our children
Right.
and pass on our genetics. Now, in areas where predation was even higher, and I know this is like a very bad thing, but if you look way back in history, people were having families and married at 14 and 15.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's all about passing on the genetics. That's why I don't think that a fungal or a plant based life form would be as effective as a life form with predation that can move around, that can adapt.
I mean, in some respects, but you have to look at the environment we're in versus all of the available environments that could be in existence. I'm not talking about just here on Earth. I'm talking like, on in the vast reaches of the cosmos, right? You have to consider if an entire planetary body were, say, a particular type of fungus, and the body right next to it were that same type of fungus, it could communicate with that other fungus. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but there would be no competition. There would be no struggle. There would be no predation. There would be no reason to evolve beyond that state.
I see what you're saying. How could something evolve if it doesn't have a predator?
If it's not stimulated in one way or the other,
Well,
how?
isn't that the thing about intellectualism? It stimulates us. Like if something was intellectual and could communicate within itself, look at this fungal theory that I've got as if a hive mind kind of technique. They each have their own small amount, but connected together, it's greatly intensified.
But if you look at hives, they don't progress no further than the hive.
They don't progress any further than the hive.
No, okay. Take ants, take bees,
Right.
take termites.
You're saying that the hive mind won't step outside of the hive mind mentality.
Exactly. It does not present enough challenge, enough intellectual diversity to create anything other than the hive mind.
Consider this. Consider this. It's been proven that in structures such as the insect kingdom with bees, even termites, that there are hive mind mentalities and that there are hierarchies to their societies. Why couldn't a hive mind be an exceptional intelligence?
Well, here's the thing. If you give workers the task of being a worker, they're always going to be a worker because that's what they're tasked with. That's
Right,
their
but
role.
I'm saying if you have a fantastic hive mind where you have a group of workers and a group of artists and a group of architects and a group of science, and they're all inside this hive mind, then it's just like different parts of a working system, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's not going to progress any further because there's going to be no real competition. That's their job set. That's their skill.
I think that that's the whole point of a hive mind. Really, is the lack of competition. It's
Yeah.
it's it's a cooperation working toward a goal. So it would be more efficient if you're seeing it.
It's more efficient towards a set goal. Yes, I agree to that. But as far as breeding the smartest of the smartest, and let's just face it, some of the humans that I've run across are, well, yeah. But as far as actually creating an intelligence that's beyond the hive mind, it's not going to do it. It's if a That's just like say a queen. The queen is the head of the hive mind, right?
Consider this, brother Tate. What is the internet but a hive mind model? We all get together and we share ideas and we share our intellect with each other. I
But
feel like the hive mind mentality may, in fact, be more.
nah, nah, it's not a hive mind.
If you consider what a hive mind is, what are we doing? This is a virtual space where we communicate our ideas. It's not just about sights and visions. We communicate our thoughts to each other through this. It is a hive mind.
I will
By
agree. Some people are stuck in the hive mind mentality, as in they have their preferences, and that's no farther than what they'll go, right?
Mhm.
I'll agree to that. But as far as the internet itself being a hive mind, you could have a man who's had the job of soldier his whole life get on the internet, look through Wikipedia, look through WikiLeaks, look through all the documentation that's out there, and come up with his own opinions and become something greater than the soldier he originally started out as.
Right.
With a hive mind, that doesn't happen. If a soldier defects, they
Absolutely
kill him.
does. It absolutely does. You're taking the Star Trekian idea of the hive mind and you're applying it as independent of free will. A hive mind is just the shared conglomerate of information between individuals.
No, bees kill their own when they defect. Ants kill their own when they defect. Termites kill their own when they defect.
Hmm.
Yeah, the hive mind is it has its limitations, is what I'm saying. It's
Let
there's
me, let me give you some better examples of a hive mind. Do dolphins kill their own when they defect? Do whales kill their own when they defect? Do
oh,
schools of fish kill their own when they defect? These are all other examples of hive minds.
absolutely,
Oh, come on now.
absolutely. They will send, say, a group of dolphins, and there's a defector, right? That defector is pushed out of that pack.
But not killed. You see stray dolphins and stray whales all the time.
What do you think that actual rogue dolphin or a rogue whale is going to do if not for safety in numbers? They will die eventually.
But that's not directly killing.
In
That
effect, it is.
that just displays a free will.
Oh, they give them the freedom to will themselves out to get eaten by a shark or to get harpooned by somebody's ship.
Hmm. I have to say, brother, I just don't know. Because we started out by talking about the hive mind, and you seem to have an opinion particularly about the hive mind, and now it all swings back to no, when that dolphin's not in the group, that dolphin's so on his own independently that he's a dead dolphin. So I mean, is the group important? Is the group not important? What's up?
It's important until the point to which you no longer need that group to survive. And when it comes to a hive mind, you need that group to survive. With humans, it's not a hive mind, so we don't need that group to survive. You see what I'm saying?
Actually, to be fair, one human without any other humans would perish. I mean, if you want to get literal with definitions, one human out by themselves without interactions with any other humans or help from any other humans would not survive.
Mm,
Bam.
well, how do you explain mountain men?
Those mountain men have families or children or something. They may have went into isolation completely by themselves, right?
Hmm.
Okay, but they at one point have had human interactions.
And wouldn't you agree that a large amount of those mountain men, before they got families or wives or settled down, probably died out by themselves?
Well, I mean, there's lots of stories of people who have went off and lived on sabbaticals and been hermits and lived for long periods of time.
So you see how I'm saying that as a hive mind, as humans, you can leave one group and travel to another and pick up their teachings, leave another group, travel to another, pick up their teachings, and keep progressing as to where if you were a dolphin, you can't leave your pack because another pack will not accept you.
Well, see, the difference is that your theory of a hive mind and my theory of a hive mind are different. Your theory of a hive mind is a forced mentality which controls the other to a point to where they don't have independence. My theory of a
Mhm.
hive mind is a more relaxed kind of, because we're grouping together and we're all in agreement, we're all sharing these, information back and forth kind of thing. My idea of a hive mind's not as rigid and dictator like as something like bees, like in a sense, right now, me and you and those people that are listening to us, they hear our thoughts and we're communicating our ideas to them. That is almost in a hive like fashion. Now, that information is there for them, it's shared for them, but where does that information originate from? It comes from our minds. And where does it go to? It goes to their minds. And we are sharing our thoughts. And this is a model for a hive mind. Home.
Yeah, but see, that's the beauty. If somebody doesn't believe in what we're saying, they can flip the channel. If somebody disagrees with us, they're openly allowed to disagree
I
with
see
us.
what you're saying, but you have to realize that the thoughts that you have on a hive mind and the thoughts that I have on a hive mind, they just differ slightly. It's a similar idea. I believe that hive mind would be an elective choice to stick with the pack or cut away from the pack. You believe that it would be a forced mandate, like a militant kind of thing.
Oh, yeah, that's what I believe. I believe it's a forced mandate.
Right. And I believe it's more or less like this. You've got a flock of birds. Every once in a while, another bird from somewhere else can just join the flock, and he's in their flight formations. When he decides or he lags behind too long, he's no longer in that flock, so he's no longer in that hive.
But see, a flock and a hive to me are two different things.
Not when you're using it in the psychological sense that we're talking about as a hive mind, because when you've got the bees that have their flight patterns and their dances and that communicate to each other, the birds of the air communicate to each other in much the same way, and that's how they notice. Surely you've seen these flight formations. These formations that birds take, perfect triangles, perfect circles. This doesn't happen without group intelligence. This is a hive mind example.
Oh yeah, highly coordinated people can get with highly coordinated people to actually complete a task without being a part of that group. Just like SEAL Team 6 could get with Marine Recon.
Right, but here's what I'm
And
saying. When you've got a flock of, say, 30 birds in the sky, and they form a triangle shape, and they're flying with this patterned triangle shape through the air. Like each bird is precisely located where each bird should be in that formation within inches to the other bird. This is a group intelligence down to a mathematical science.
Yeah, a group intelligence, not my exact definition of a hive mind.
Hmm, I don't know. I believe that, that's just splitting hairs between group intelligence and hive mind, honestly. I really do.
I believe a hive mind to be more of a hierarchical system to where certain people have certain jobs, certain tasks, certain things to do, and if they don't do that, well, they kind of get, you know, disowned, kicked out.
You have to realize that through human beings, we have something like verbal communication, right? But from the very start of civilization, we have, through vocal tones and through voice, through literature, you know, through literature and through various other means of communication, we have communicated our ideas to others, and we have shared those experiences. It's a very articulate process that conveys a lot of meaning through this communication. And you
Yeah,
have to realize that when me and you sit here and we have this discussion for everyone to listen to, we're conveying more of a message from me to you to them than, say, animals in the forest are communicating with their dances about where to locate the good smelling flowers, right? So you have to understand how much thought we are conveying to one another. And you really have to evaluate, are we really sharing our thoughts on a level that could be close to a hive mind, or at least a group mind mentality?
I would say a group mind, group mentality. Yeah, yeah, definitely. I would say the internet is a group mentality because, look, who has flocked to the internet? Honestly, who has flocked to it?
Um, everyone. I mean,
Okay, the main people that has flocked to the internet are people who have critical thinking processes that do not believe the media or the masses that are telling them lies.
hmm, I don't know, man. I mean, I believe, and you got to understand, this is coming from the guy that I do believe in conspiracy theory, but I don't think you can take when almost every person on the planet has, even in other countries, third world countries where people can't even afford to eat, people have internet access. There are so many people online now that you can't really just say one, because they're online, they're this kind of person. I think everybody's online and all kinds of people are online.
Well, if they are, they're not using it to the full potential as the critical thinkers would be. I'll put it that way. The very beginnings of the internet were, you know, just forums in the middle of nowhere that
Yeah.
nobody really thought would ever get anywhere.
And then it transformed into the information superhighway, where now instead of scientific information, people are just, in their little chat rooms talking about whatever pleases them. I mean, it's really evolved.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is it first started out for critical thinkers who wanted to get away from mainstream media.
I'll grant you that's a known fact. The original origin of the internet was so these scientific communities, specifically colleges, could trade research papers and talk about their findings and results.
Exactly. That's I mean, in
Now
a way,
let me bring this in, because I hate to George Norrie this up. Mad respect for the George Norrie guy. Isn't that an example of a hive mind? We're going to connect our thoughts electronically so we can concur on things.
that is if you're seeking validation, yes.
I'm just seeking to point out that, the ultimate goal is that the thoughts that I convey end up in your mind or someone else's mind if they're even listening. So is that not really thought conveyance? I mean, we're using this electronical gap bridge, the internet, but is it not a kind of, in a way, hive mind or group mind? I'm not saying that people are subject to my will and they have to believe what I'm saying, but they hear my thoughts.
Group mind, I would agree. Hive mind, yes. And the reason, hive mind, no. Let me get back to that. And the reason that I'm saying group mind, yes, people who like the things you like will come to your YouTube channel. This is a thing. I like video gaming. So when I'm on TatePlays, they're going to come over to TatePlays, right?
Right.
If I jump on Stranger Than Fiction and release UFO seen over Antarctic, here's pictures straight out, well, I'm going to draw that crowd, right?
Yeah, but more so to the point, what I'm getting at, let's say someone sees one of our videos and they don't like our videos. The fact of the matter is whether they agreed with what we said, they heard what we said. Our thoughts were fairly directly conveyed from us to them.
Well, yeah, that's why I say a group mentality or a group mind more than a hive mind, because with the hive mind, the signal is sent. If not received, the defective unit gets destroyed.
Right. I mean, to a certain degree, logically, yeah. I could see where you're coming from with that psychologically anyway. When you've got a group of people and the vast majority of that group of people agree that something is a specific way, well, when the other guy comes in and says, no, 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 it's not this way, it's this way, I believe that happened to me, earlier tonight. You know, you run into friction.
But yeah, you see what I believe group minded?
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, maybe. Hive mind? No.
I don't know, man. I mean, what would your line for the definition between hive-minded and group-minded be? Where would you where would you throw that definition? Like, when you can tell a person like this is what you should think, is that not hive-minded?
Mm, not really, because you still have the ability to leave the group without being killed or destroyed as a defective unit.
But do you really have the ability to leave the group without being killed or destroyed as an effective unit? And I bring this up because what happens to the guy that was disagreed upon? The guy that everybody's like, no, you're not like that. In a sense, at least by the internet sense, that guy is viewed as a troll or a problem. His credibility was destroyed and killed just because he was disagreed with. If you consider it that way, Tate, the punishment still applies, because what happens to the guy that nobody agrees with? Oh, he's wrong, blah, 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 forum troll. You see so many, you know, yeah, that happens too.
Well, I mean, technically, if the guy is speaking factually straight from this and that and giving the key points, everything, and they still call him a troll, well, then that group itself may be,
Hive mind.
yeah, they're no longer a group mind, they turn into a hive mind.
So the difference between a group mind and a hive mind, and I think we touched upon this earlier in your opinion, would be a group mind shares thoughts and ideas while a hive mind controls.
Exactly.
Hmm. I still, for lack of definition, I still don't fully agree. I believe a hive mind or a group mind would be similar, that even within a hive mind, there would be some amount of independence and free will. But that's just opinion. I mean,
Yeah,
you
that's
know
where we
what
differ on that, though.
opinions are like. Everybody's got one.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, man, I mean, a hive mind would not bring about as much competition as a group mind.
But isn't competition where we got most of our greatest things?
Exactly. That's why I'm saying without competition, the life forms on another planet would not and
Evolve.
could not come up to the status where we are at currently.
But you have to realize that once you meet a certain mental plateau, a person realizes that there is mental stimulation and there is mental competition. It doesn't all have to be physical.
Well, I think honestly a lot of, I'd say at least 25% of it has to be.
I'm just saying, like, rather than physically stressing your brain, if you're in a mathematics competition and your idea is to figure out, you know, what the quantum location is of the D wave at a specific given time, given a chart, and you know where the quantum location of the D wave was at this given time, where was the D wave located at this given time? Is that necessarily a hard physical labor to figure
Physically,
out?
no.
Right,
Mentally, yes.
right. You see what I'm saying? That would be a mental strain.
Yeah, but uh, D waves and survival to get to where you're apex predator are two different things. I mean, a bear in the
Oh, look,
forest.
I hate to pull a, you know, our friend D. I hate to pull a D, but I'm going to pull one of his favorite moves. Oh, but now he would never say this, but as far as science goes, oh, but without the D wave in quantum physics, we wouldn't be here.
Okay, we would be here, but we would not be exploring physics like we do.
I mean, I think if you look into um, string theory, kind of states that we're in vibration, and that's the whole idea behind quantum mechanics. I just want to throw this out there,
Yeah.
because I mean, some things are absolute science fact, and I mean that's where I have to put my feet in the mud and go, hoorah, y'all! Like, look, I can't let this be rolled over. This is science fact, you know. So right, okay. Look, it's like this: we are never in a singular location because we're vibrating, and that's the whole function of the D wave in quantum physics.
Yeah.
This is why we're in multiple locations at once, because at any given moment in time we are in motion, right?
Yeah.
So
That's why
that's
we
the whole,
develop more than four neurons.
well, I mean, that's the whole point of, like, when you look into multiverse theory with quantum physics, you realize that there's more than just two, because the universe is in constant flux. It's probably more likely than not infinite.
Atomic structures, yes. A plant can be um, not as motivated as a actual bipedal or quadrupedal species, but a plant is not as intelligent as a quadrupedal or a bipedal species because a plant never had to move to learn to survive.
Well, I mean, at one point, right, we just have to realize that nature has an abundance of everything. Um, are you? I forgot. Are you brother fiction, or are you? Which one are you? This
I'm on the fiction mark, man.
right on, right on. I'm just saying, nature has an abundance of a variety of life, and you have to realize that there is an order to nature. There's such a thing as a food chain. Some animals can eat other animals, and other animals can eat other animals, and there's a king of the food chain, and that's humans. And here's the thing, though: regardless of how people don't want to rank nature, that one life form would be over a life form. um there are classes of life form, like, say, intelligent human life would be above vegetation and plant life. Do you see what I'm saying? We're a higher life form. I'm trying
Yeah.
to say this in a way as not, I'm trying to say it in a way that there's no way possible that people could take it offensively, that human life is a higher life form than vegetation. Does
All
that
they all they have to do is look up Linnaean categorization of the species.
Yeah.
And in there you'll find that there is different families of species, and on top of those species is different types of species, and you'll find that the highest ranking, most intelligent, most get around, do everything, eat everything is Chordata primata Homo sapien.
So I really would bring this out further if I could. I just wanted to explain to everyone that I've been meaning to get more content out. I've been meaning to be more active as a channel. Um, I've ran into some roadblocks with that. I've lost several research documents that I was working on. I had a few videos all but ready, and I lost that information. It's put me well behind schedule. Um, let me know what you guys think of these live talks that me and Tate are doing. Would you rather I go back to the heavily edited videos, or how do you feel about these live talks? I want to do question and answers. I'd like for you guys to be more active. I mean, come and see us, talk to us, ask us questions. It would be much appreciated. Um, Brother Tate, is there anything you'd like to say?
Oh, that's all.
All right, all right. So, you know, um, we're going to do a few more of these and see how these turn out. We don't know. This is our first real live event, and if it doesn't do well, we may not do others. If it does do well, we may do others. I want to thank you guys, each and every one that's listened to us. Um, if you like these live events, really let us know. We will do more. Um, I appreciate you guys. Tune in next time to SP Channel.
Ooga booga.
I'm trying to.
Can you find the stop button?